Hey everybody, welcome back to Thumb FPV. Now in my Marmotte build series, this is video number 4, and this is simply just getting the wires from the motors soldered onto the ESCs, wired up and soldered onto the flight controller. Nice short little video here, but we'll get this checked out real quick. Here we go. Hey everybody, welcome back to Thumb FPV. Today we have the Marmotte here today, and we're going to get ready to put the wires on the ESCs and the ESCs to the flight controller here. Now, a lot of people will just take and they'll go ahead and they'll run their wires, get these secured, cut them, and go ahead and solder them up. I like to make mine a little bit more precise, as to it makes it look more professionally built, and it's just safe. So the first thing I'm going to do is overall measure my ESC out. And I'm going to go ahead and switch this to inches. Get these wires out of the way. I'm going to measure from the solder pad to that solder pad. Overall, I'm just going to round that up to 1.25 inches. So here, inch and a quarter. Now I'm going to take and measure from the motor all the way out past the furthest point of the last pad. We're about 3 8/10 of an inch there. That should be safe. So I'm going to say I didn't keep that conventional. They are mixed, but we have 1.25 inches. We have 1 inch or 3 inches and 5/8 or 4/5 basically. So with that, I'm going to take and I'm going to subtract 1.25 from the 3.8, and we're going to end up with 2.55. That is our overall amount of wire needed. I'm going to take and turn around and divide that by 2. Actually, I'm going to round it up. We'll make this 2.6. Divide that by 2. We have 1.3, and that's how long I want the wires to be from the motor to this side of the ESC, and the wires from this ESC to be to the flight controller. So I'm going to go ahead and measure those out and get them ready. So now here, as you can see, we have all our wires cut. I did leave out the signal and the telemetry wire because we're going to do that later. We'll get these out of the way first, and then when we have this bird's nest around the drone cleaned up, then we'll worry about those. But for right now, these are all trimmed and ready to go. Another reason why I like to do this is because it keeps the ESCs all uniform in a nice place, and then you don't worry about, well, I had this one over here and you didn't see this one right and this one's out too far. I always measure the wires first, that way I know everything is all uniform and parallel to each other. It just gives the build a whole lot cleaner look. So the next step I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and trim down the extra wire coating here on both the motors and the ESCs and get them prepped for tinning. So I've taken and trimmed all the wires up. As you can see, they're nice. Spun the ends on them, give them a nice clean finish. There's no frays, there's no loose pieces sticking out anywhere. Have all the motors done and the ESCs done. So what I'm thinking now is that when I'm doing this, I want to have the most flexibility to get these in place instead of trying to fight with something rigid. So stability over flexibility right now is not something that I would want. What I want to do is have these lined up perfectly, but I know that my ESCs are not spaced out just so. I just kind of threw them on there, but what I did do is I measured out the motor wires and the ESC wires exactly. I also measured them over 1.3 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tin all the loose wires here on the motors and the ESCs first, and then show you something else that I'm going to get into on the ESCs themselves. So here we have all of our wires tinned for the motors and the ESCs. When you're doing this, you want to bend them back and out of the way. I wouldn't preferably do it over any form of circuit board or whatsoever. If you have to lean them back and you happen to drip something on the shrink wrap here, that's not going to be the end of the world. But if you happen to get some solder down here on these little pads, that's no good. You're going to have a lot of problems trying to get that off, if you can even do it. So the first thing that I'm going to do now after tinning up the wires is, look here really close, the plastic actually comes down over the ESC pads, and I could go ahead and throw some tin on there and get those ready to go, but I don't want the plastic melting back into this over here, and I don't want it contaminating the solder pad itself. So I'm going to take a pair of small scissors and an X-Acto knife, and I'm going to trim back all the plastic on these ESCs, so when I get ready to tin them, I don't have that there. Okay, real quick, I'm going to give you a demo on what I'm talking about. This plastic right here needs to go away. I'm going to take my X-Acto knife and just poke it in, run it right under the side of this, and carefully cut away from the pad. And watch your fingertips, you don't want to cut them. And then just push this out the end, like so. Now you see we have this tab right here. Just come in from the side with a small pair of scissors. Snip. Snip. And now you have that tiny piece of plastic out of the way and off of your pads. Now you can get right in there, no problem. Put your solder down, and you're not going to worry about anything getting in the pads, no contaminants, and you're not going to worry about burning back into the shrink wrap itself. As you can see, now I have all the pads nice and open. The solder can go right on there. You can hook your wires straight in there, and there's nothing in the way. That's what we want. Next thing, I'm going to tin the pads for the ESCs where the motors connect. Got one done. Just gonna show you one going on real quick here. I normally count for about 10 seconds, get it nice and heated. I do run my iron at 420, nice and warm. Start applying the solder. Let it fill the pad up, move away. Nice shiny bead. Same thing here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Golden. And I'm going to do that the rest of the way around. So here we have all of our ESC pads soldered, tinned up, nice and shiny. No jaggedness, no dull gray. They're all nice and bright like they should be. So what I'm going to do to get this going, don't really have a lot of room. I'm going to take and move back my zip tie, pull the ESC up, move it towards the drone, roughly line this up I want the pads to be about even with the wire. That way I can have them come down. Just about so. That's good. So just push it back down. Sticky pad will hold it. Pull the zip tie back up over the top to hold it in place. Whatever you want to use for this, I like to use a little cheap pair of bent needle nose pliers. Holds the ESCs in place nice and tight. Start with this one right here. Heat up. Puddle build. Push down. Back away. That's how I like them. Right there. I'm gonna do the other two real quick for you, but I'm gonna skip the last ones. Heat it up. Put it in. Cover it. Pull away. Angle up a little bit more so I don't touch anything else. Heat it up. Push it in. Top. Push it down. Let it build. Pull away. Boom. So I'm going to go ahead and do up the other three motors real quick. So we have our ESCs and our motors all wired together here. Nice and shiny. Notice I got this little kink in the wires here pushed off to the side. That's just in case anything needs to move forward. So I did measure it and overcut it just a hair in case there was anything that needed to be switched around. Sometimes you get up there and your positive pad's here and your electric or your negative pad is there and you needed to switch them, but now you don't have enough room. So I just always make sure that I have enough room. I also don't like my wires to be stressed, so I leave some hanging off the back. Zip tie it down later with something, or sticky tape, electrical tape, whatever you want. But I don't like anything having stress on it and have it strained right to the max. I like it to have room to be able to move in case something gets hit. It's not ripping off a pad or a fet or anything like that. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to remove these cable ties here one at a time and get the pads prepped up on the flight controller. I got the first set of pads prepped right there, positive and ground. I'm gonna go ahead and connect the wire to it. Kind of get it bent ahead of time, oriented to where it's supposed to go. And sound like so. Now the next one, for the ones close to the nylon nuts here, if you got a shaky hand or something like that, you may want to consider taking those off so you don't melt them. If not, you don't have to. You can see my hand's kind of shaky. Had a little too much coffee to drink this morning. But get these back and out of the way. Back this over. I'm gonna come in from the side to stay away from the nut. Let it build, fill out, and it's set. Pull away. That's how I'm going to continue to do the rest of them. We'll take a look at it when I'm done. One small important detail I do want to point out real quick. I don't know if you've used a ESC or all-in-one flight control before like this, PDB installed. A lot of times, if you've done this before, you'll notice your pads will go positive, negative, positive, negative. They'll be the same. These ones are not. They go positive, negative, positive, negative. So if you're used to them being the other way, just take a quick look and make sure that you have everything going correctly, because this is a little bit different than most of your flight controllers. Here we are. This part of the build is all complete. We have our motors wired up to our ESCs. We have our ESCs wired up to the all-in-one flight controller. Everything's nice and neat. It's tucked away. It's nice. It's low. You don't have to worry about anything getting hit. So the next thing we're going to do here is we are going to go ahead and we're going to hook up the signal wires for each of the ESCs. On this, the signal wire being the white wire, which in between your pads here, your signal wire will go to your M1, your signal wire will go to your M2, your signal wire will go to M3, your signal wire will go to your M4. And those pads are located right between the positive and negative pads. Just make sure that you're using the white wire on this, because that is the one for the signal. Okay, so we have all the signal pads tinned here, 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 and here. Now, to some of you, I might be doing this completely backwards. I don't know. This is how I do it. I like to do everything in a certain order. You do the bigger pads first, then move on to the smaller ones. For something smaller like this, you may need a pair of these self-closing tweezers. Come in really handy. You don't really have to worry too much about any fuss. You just clip it and go. Right down over the pad. Plus you can get down in between the other wires, no problem. Really simple, in and out. They also work two ways, so if you have to reach around corner or anything like that, bend it back out, then get a hold of it. That one's going to be a little pain. Get this out of the way. There we go. Nice and neat right to the top. Come around this side. Just going to unwrap that one time, get a hold of it, right down over the pad, bring it together, boom, that's beautiful. Pull this up and out of the way here, get a little better angle on it. So, right down over the pad, and then just touch it, it's done. So now our signal wires are all hooked up for our ESCs, and that's all we're going to do for today, because the next step we're going to have to hook up our telemetry wires, and that has to do with beta flight. So we're going to leave this be for the way it is right now. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll have another one up soon. Thank you for watching. Okay, so that was that. Nice and painless, really simple, just slap them on. A couple tips there real quick. Get the pre-installed heat shrink out of the way altogether. Make sure your ESCs, I like to put them upside down, that way all the pads on them for the most part are to the bottom of the ESC and they're not going to get damaged in the crash. I am here with my beautiful wife, my assistant, that's going to be helping me out with this video and several others in the future. She's going over any questions that newbies might have to the hobby. So as far as today, that was pretty simple, pretty straightforward. Do you have any questions on this at all?
The only one that I have a question with is tinning. I'm not familiar with soldering or anything, so.
Tinning is just simply prepping the pad that you're about to solder on. You tin the wires, that means you heat them up, get a little bit of solder ready for soldering on what it is that you're about to solder together. I did prep and tin both the wires and the ESC pads. You put them together, if you have a decent amount on them, there should be enough to solidify and bind them together quite nicely. You may have to add a little bit from the coil as you're going along and just dab it in at the top afterwards, but that's it.
So would it be better to tin both the wires that you're going to connect to the ESC and the ESC?
Yes.
Oh.
Yep.
Rather than just the ESC and the wires?
Yep. You'd want them both done.
Cool.
It's a lot easier that way. You can gob up one or the other and then try to get it to go, but once the solder has solidified to the pad, it's already there, it's already hot. You don't have to wait for what you're working on to get enough heat for the solder that you're working with to heat up and then adhere to the pad. It's already there. All you have to do is the two tinned objects that you have together, just heat them up and then they will automatically pull together, given the fact that you have good positioning for it, and the rest of it's already in place. So it just makes it really simple.
Cool.
That's the catchphrase. Cool. All right, so that is it for this part of the build. We got like maybe 3 videos left in the series, but for right now, this is all that we have for today. This is Thumb FPV. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comments below. Like and subscribe, and I'll have another video up soon. Thanks for watching.